Fourth on your list, you've got Giannis. The struggles in Milwaukee. I mean, it's funny to say the struggles in Milwaukee, and they're the 2 seed right now if the playoffs were to start. But they're not. This is not the same Bucks that we've kind of become accustomed to. They're not dominant defensively like they used to be, but the offense that they can roll out there is pretty incredible. But you got Giannis fourth, Jokic third. I can't really I don't have any bones to pick there. I think that both of their teams just haven't been as good as you want. Jokic, part of that is Jamal Murray kind of in and out of the lineup. They've had some injury issues, but the Nuggets are sleepwalking a little bit.
I'm not sure I'd use sleepwalking. I'd say they're in third gear.
They're a machine.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not the sleepwalking, but they're a machine. And I don't know if Jokic can win another MVP. If they're going to just make their wins look so easy, we'll see what things look like in the next few months. But the top two, I'm very interested in. Joel Embiid is averaging like 35 a game, and he's been ridiculous. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, I just think that this is a continuation of what he started last season. And now they're winning games. Shai, it feels like Shai's going to just win this MVP as long as Oklahoma City stays on this path.
I mean, I think that first of all, those two in a tier by themselves at the top of the race. I mean, I think there's, I knew those two would be in the top tier when I started the exercise, but I was surprised when I started to get into some of the metrics, how much separation there is between those two guys and then the next two, Jokic and Giannis, both of whom are having like excellent seasons, but not just the peaks that the two guys who you're talking about have hitting. And then I think the among other differentiator, just the fact that even before Embiid has missed the last couple of games, Shai has missed only one game this season. And yeah, okay, he's played 6 games more at the time I wrote that. 6 games isn't a bunch, but you extract that out to 12 or 15 games, and that's a meaningful difference. And so even before we start to quibble on a per possession impact, where I might still lean Shai this year, just in terms of how much OKC gets to play against scrambled defense because of his ability to break the first line of defense down while not turning the ball over, just makes life so easy for other people. Then okay, he may be not the greatest possession to possession defender, in part because of how much he has the ball, but he leads the league in steals by just a massive margin. And it's that makes up for a lot. If you're carving out, if you're zeroing out one extra opposing possession a game, that's a pretty good, you make up for a lot of, mediocre defensive possessions that way.
I'm glad you brought up the turnovers, because Seth, you alerted me to this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hasn't had a game with more than 3 turnovers since October. This guy has the ball in his hands so much. And he just doesn't waste. You don't lose possessions with your best player on the court. And man, I can hammer the Warriors about this because they have never valued the basketball, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has not had more than 3 turnovers in a basketball game since the 30th of October, game 4 of the season. That's absurd.
And there's a lot of guys who have been big scorers who have done so, not turning the ball over a lot. They very much tended to be more pull-up jump shooter types. Your Dirk Nowitzki, DeMar DeRozan, a couple of Carmelo Anthony seasons sort of come to mind of that. He's also doing this as the guy who gets drives. He has the most drives in the league by a decent margin. He's when I wrote the story, he was first in total drives and 45th in turnovers on drives. And it's just so he's not just creating offense for himself. He's like I said, he's breaking the defense down. And usually that's a situation where turnovers occur and you're okay with that. That's a cost you're willing to pay. But you're not even having to pay that cost with Shai this year.
No, that's the thing. With his usage so high on that team, it's to have that low of a turnover margin is absurd. You would expect to have a game here and there with 4 or 5 turnovers every now and then, just a bad game like that. But even when he has a bad game, it's not the turnovers that are the problem. And that's kind of the absurdness with it. I think the difference when we talk about, and I want to piggyback on Seth's point about him making everybody's life easier. He's winning Chet Holmgren the Rookie of the Year award. Chet's able to really kill, and it's not because he's definitely talented with all that stuff too. He gets the most open shots because defenses are trying to stymie those Shai drives, and that leads to open looks for everybody. And he's kind of really benefited from that. And I think that's the big thing, and that's why I kind of have him a tier above Embiid, and like the smallest of tiers. You know, in that sense. And Embiid's been great. He's averaging career high in assists. He's moving the ball really well. And I think he's benefited from Maxi's rise, whereas Shai is the reason why other guys have benefited in Oklahoma City. And I think that's kind of the small delineation there. And I think that's sort of the difference between the two, and why I would probably go, 1-2 the way Seth has it in that list. And I think that's the stuff that's most interesting. But at the end of the day, too, and Dave, I got to give you credit, man. September, you were calling Shai for MVP. I don't know if you said it on the pod or if you said it in our pre-show stuff, and I started yelling at you about it's way too early and whatnot and things like that. But I mean, give your credit, take your victory laps.
Well,
but it's also
I don't know about victory. But it's the
narrative.
Well,
I'll take one.
Take one.
Who told you? Who told you years ago? Who told you guys years ago?
True.
Shai's gonna be a star.
What's incredible to me, look, he's averaging almost 32 a game, 32 points a game. Super low volume 3-point shooting for a guard in the NBA now. 3.5 threes on average a game. And he's still averaging 31.5 points a game. I mean, that's just incredible. The guy scores at every level. And this is different than Embiid, right? Because Embiid, dominant in the post. We know that, he shoots threes and he's good from the mid-range, but he's not attacking you in the same ways. He's not set. I mean, a lot of Embiid's playmaking comes out of the post and drawing the double. And it's great for that he recognizes it. But Shai is actively creating a lot of the advantages for other people too.
It should be noted that Embiid is having by some margin his best playmaking season, but that's from a baseline of he's being a low playmaking, high turnover guy. He's better in that regard, but he's still, like, for his offensive involvement, he's on the high end of the turnovers to the same degree that Shai is on the low end.
So barring health, right? Is the MVP race over?
No, come on.
I mean, like, no, but are these the contestants? Let's say, is this the race? Is this it's Embiid, it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's Jokic, it's Giannis, it's Kawhi, or can someone sneak in there?
I think that you mentioned Luka. I think LeBron is having, like, the season LeBron is having. Like, the next group down is okay. Tatum has to be stupendous and Boston's still good. And then some other guys, LeBron and Luka and maybe one or two others, like, if their team starts to come up, if the Warriors go on I don't think any of us think this has happened. I think we all kind of think they're done. But if the Warriors go on a run and get up to, like, the 5th or 6th seed because behind Steph, like, he gets into the conversation. So I think that for the most part, the guys who are on the outside of that group looking in, it's as much about their teams putting runs together to give them the platform to be in that conversation, as far as I'm concerned.
It's also January 10th. Like, if somebody has just an unbelievable second half, like you said, we're at the halfway mark. Like, if somebody has just an unbelievable second half, that's going to win them the MVP, right? And this stuff can change relatively quick. A hot 3 weeks from somebody, and we're all of a sudden going like, holy shit, De'Aaron Fox goes completely ballistic and has the Kings rising in the standings or something. We're going to start looking at that. And so on. So we'll have to see how it kind of plays out. I would just say first half MVP, I think, is pretty solid. And, we'll see how it kind of continues the rest of the way.